Thank you for joining us today for our panel. Before I introduce our panelists, let's first look at what open core architecture and the Begini behavioral credit scoring solution are.
At Mifos Initiative, the goal is to end poverty one line of code at a time. Central to that goal is building modern, cost-effective and highly connected composable banking infrastructure using open source building blocks for core banking and payment orchestration. The mission is simple but ambitious: to advance the financial health of over 3 billion underbanked individuals worldwide. By commoditizing core banking software, we unlock a virtuous cycle of upstream contribution and shared innovation, enabling a global ecosystem of market-driven solutions and services. Our open APIs have powered over 500 institutions in reaching 35 million clients across 65 countries. These APIs offer a scalable and flexible foundation for organizations looking to bring financial services to underserved populations, while fostering continuous innovation across the financial sector. We aim to create a world of 3 billion Maries, a world where each person has access to the financial resources needed to create a better life for themselves and their family. Empowered by a tiny loan, Marie-Claire of Rwanda survived HIV and the death of 2 husbands to build a house for herself and her 4 children, and started a second business in her village to employ others. Marie's triumphant escape from poverty is what motivates us each day. To keep the MFIs and the borrowers they serve at the front of our minds, we codename releases after a Marie from each MFI user. 3 billion Maries is the shared vision that unites our Mifos community and what we work towards each day. At Begini, we believe that access to credit is access to opportunity. Data-driven insights and innovative technologies are paving the way for smarter, more personalised lending experiences, revolutionising the way lenders assess creditworthiness, prevent fraud, and build lasting client relationships. Begini helps lenders see the full picture. Behavioural analytics provides an insight into the character, behaviour, skills, and experience of an individual, information which is highly predictive of creditworthiness. Character is the missing piece of credit assessment. At Begini, we create first-party character data through simple yet thorough assessments, utilising the latest scientific approaches in psychometrics and gamification. From our short, gamified assessments, we collect over 7,000 raw data points and are able to provide a risk assessment for anyone. Our risk scores and insights can be used to assess 100% of applicants, regardless of financial background. People are diverse, and credit assessment should consider a diversity of data.
I'd like to welcome our panel today. Firstly, we have Ed Cable, CEO and President of the Mifos Initiative. Ed was with Mifos Project since 2007 and led the spin-out of Mifos Initiative in 2011. Ed has an extensive background in microfinance, digital financial services, open source and financial inclusion. Next, we have James Hume, CEO of Begini. James is a senior executive and board member with over 20 years' experience in financial technology, specifically financial inclusion in emerging markets. And joining them, we have Victor Romero, CTO of FinTecheando. With over 20 years' experience in IT applied to financial services as a co-founder of FinTecheando, the company creates digital solutions based on the Mifos and Fineract ecosystem. He has lots of experience in therefore meeting customer needs. Thank you all for joining us today to share your experience.
So, Ed, turning first to you, why has Mifos adopted an open core architecture when so many providers do the opposite to control experience?
We saw it was necessary at many different levels. First off, the recognition that core banking infrastructure is relatively common, and institutions don't need to reinvent the wheel and each build or buy their own costly core banking system. By providing an open core that is extensible and flexible, so each institution can focus on value-added services and differentiation for their market. We operate by the underlying rule of 80-20, where 80% of the functionality is common and the remaining 20% is where others can differentiate. We can collectively make investment in IT and spend so much more efficient and so much more effective. By commoditizing the core banking infrastructure, we enable innovation to occur around the edge, which delivers immense value to the underbanked. A pristine user experience, access to an analysis of data, integration into modern real-time payments, service-level innovation, digital onboarding. Simply, companies can get to market faster and provide their customers much better services. Even with this common core approach, there is still much room for co-opetition around the edge that have the boundaries of a common core. Secondly, both in the traditional financial services sector as well as the financial inclusion space, there is this growing notion that the core can be unbundled, and to deliver an end-to-end solution for a specific market or a specific customer, you need to unify multiple systems. The underlying system of record should be lightweight, modular, scalable, and flexible. We have adopted the principles of a mock architecture: microservices-based, API-driven, cloud-native, and headless. While the ledger itself or the parameters of a loan or savings account are common globally, the way the product is delivered, the way it's serviced, how a customer transacts varies from market to market. By having this extensible headless architecture with fully open APIs, financial inclusion providers can innovate rapidly by integrating digital identity sources, building a tailor-made user experience, and providing next-generation payment and transaction capabilities. This architecture, in turn, will also enable entities to be best positioned to leverage generative AI and automation of financial services and financial decision-making that is on the horizon. Last, but not least, the need we are facing is so immense, 3 billion underbanked, that the only way we can effectively reach them and achieve the sustainable development goal of no poverty is through a completely different approach where we have this common open architecture and create a virtuous cycle with a global community of both commercial as well as philanthropic players across the private and public sector, helping to collectively build, maintain, and evolve the common open core while making upstream contributions and building out their solutions that they're bringing to market. There's so much power in this collective. We can go farther together when we have hundreds of organizations and individuals rather than a single one building the common core.
So James, what advantages did that approach offer yourselves?
Yeah, thanks, David, and thanks, Ed. As Ed has articulated, an open source approach has many benefits right across the ecosystem, and importantly, directly for those working in financial inclusion. An open source and core architecture like Fineract lets financial businesses open up their APIs so that they can layer on top services as applicable for markets. And then what does that mean for a business like Begini? It means that we can very quickly allow, for example, a micro lender to harness the potential of modern data for credit assessment, meaning very simply they can reach more people and include more people in the underwriting of risk at a very cost-effective price. So that critical theme through financial inclusion. What we do at Begini is essentially find a way to level the playing field with regard to access to fair, safe credit from both sides of the credit seesaw. So at the heart of what we do is really the financial technology that is cost effective, it's flexible, transparent, and is secure. And the way we see it is a truly open sort of financial ecosystem means we can take steps to move away from silos of data and technologies and really provide some democratization and ownership and sovereignty of the data in digital public infrastructure.
Thanks, James. So Victor, then, as a service integrator, how does Open Core help you when talking to your customers?
Thank you, David, for the question. Here in Mexico, we have implemented the core banking for small customers and for big customers in the federal public service. And for all of them, they are looking for the freedom to change anything in the core for a specific requirement, for a specific needs, because they have different ways to provide financial inclusion. This is because in the small towns, they require to have a very close relationship with the customers, and they have another way to do the onboarding of the new customers. So then these kind of needs are very different to the massive scale that the federal public requires. And this kind of open source solution helps to the developers and also helps to the decision makers to have a very flexible solution in order to achieve their goals, because the goals are different. For some are to implement public politics, talking about financial inclusion, social mobility, and on the other way is to provide services for small towns where the commercial banking is not present. So then they have to offer as a way to implement these financial services in the small towns. So the freedom is one of the selection or the choice that helps or that enhances this kind of selection.
Great. And we saw, Victor, how one of the solutions that could work with Mifos is Begini's solution for modern data, such as behavioral analytics for credit scoring. So how do you see that benefit your customers?
Oh, this is very important because our customer, most of them, they don't have any previous experience about banking. So then the approach for doing the risk analysis is different. We have to understand which is the behavior of the people talking about the repayment of a loan, and then the risk must be measured in another way. It's not only taking financial or historical financial data, but this is how the person will be behaved during the loan cycle.
Excellent. Thank you. So, Ed, how do you think this inclusion of new data sources, such as behavioral analytics, can really impact credit reporting?
Yes, I believe these new data sources can impact credit inclusion tremendously. There's immense power in opening up new avenues for the client by providing them a holistic and comprehensive view, but also in augmenting the traditional sources of credit data. I can't do justice to how James can articulate the rich content on the Begini site around the various alternative data sources and where they're best suited. But in short, I'm really excited by what psychometric assessments and behavioral analytics can do, especially to those who are currently invisible from traditional scoring measures by looking at their willingness to repay and not just their ability to pay. It opens up new markets for the institutions serving these individuals, lowers the cost for them, and allows products to be tailored to the needs of these individuals as well as their businesses and households. I'm also really excited by efforts afoot in India, where they've just launched their unified lending interface, which opens up access to not just traditional sources of credit data, but also alternative sources of data. Going back to the power of an open core architecture and the transformative potential it can have on these last mile institutions, so many of these institutions lack the capability or budgets to build or integrate with the systems that can allow them to leverage these new data sources and adequately compete with banks or fintechs. However, these institutions are the ones that possess the close trust relationships with their clients, and now they can finally have the ability to utilize new data sources to not just determine creditworthiness, but to identify what offerings at both a deposit as well as credit level are best suited for the client and their household on whatever stage of journey they're on. With an open architecture at its foundation, now is an exciting time for the grassroots institutions to take advantage of many democratizing trends. First off, cloud and the ability to access widespread sources of data, the mobile phone and the priceless insights that can yield into an individual, open banking initiatives which enable widespread data and choices of services for the customer, the transformative potential of artificial intelligence and machine learning, and last but not least, alternative modern data sources. We can really help the underbanked become visible and gain access to the more traditional financial services that we all take for granted. And one last point I want to make, and it's a key objective of the Mifos initiative, is to not just harness the power and potential of our technology, but the community as well. As part of our broader AI for all strategy, we look to have federated models of traditional credit scoring data, but also now to leverage federated models for sharing these behavioral data to improve its effectiveness even further.
So James, Begini has been offering behavioral analytics for 3 years now. What's some of the ways the industry has evolved in just that short window of time?
Yeah, thanks, David. It's hard to believe it's been 3 years already. Sometimes feels slightly longer, in truth. But even in that sort of short period of time, we have seen a change in people's attitude to start embracing new technologies. And the move from referring to character data always alternative to modern, as people realize and see the value in start embracing additional data sources. Behavioral analytics in general has been widely used in economic theory for a long time. Credit has been pretty slow actually to catch on to the power of behavioral economics. But we're finding that the lenders who do incorporate gamified psychometric solutions and device data behavior are achieving hugely valuable results when put with other data sources to reach more good borrowers. And that's, of course, the key here for financial inclusion. At its core, lending's about, and always has been, trust, particularly in the financial inclusion space. So we're seeing the return of the concept of trust inside lending, which allows lenders to try and get a position on individuals and SMEs, generally small, where there is very little empirical data. And that's critical to any portfolio. Our use cases are becoming more and more diverse, almost by the week. So we support BNPL lending in Asia, multiple asset finance lending programs across sub-Saharan Africa, and into Latin America, ranging from solar panels to stoves to internet-connected devices. And all of these drive and are the lifeblood, of course, of economic sustainability. And ultimately, what are we trying to achieve? It's the reduction of that credit gap where capital can't be put safely to work.
Thank you, James. It sounds like it's been a busy journey for you over the last 3 years. Victor, coming back to yourself. So how does Mifos and Begini working together address challenges for your customers?
We have selected Mifos and Begini to provide a new solution to our customers. They are looking for different ways to create different solutions. They are looking to have a better market share, and they are looking for a new way to do the measurement of the willingness to do the repayment of the loans in each of their customers. So then this kind of disruptive solutions like Begini and Mifos is very important right now for our customers because they have the flexibility also, and they will have another way to offer financial services on their companies, not only on traditional financial companies, but also in their service companies. For example, energy companies are looking to have a new ways to offer loans to their customers. So Begini and Mifos is a way to have it working in a very fast time, and is affordable also to implement it.
Thank you, Victor. So before we close, perhaps I can ask each of you to sum up with what do you think is the biggest thing the fintech industry can do next to progress financial inclusion? Ed, do you want to go first?
Yeah, so from my perspective, I think the fintech industry needs to really fully adopt these open core building block based approaches, inclusive of not just the technology, but as well as common standards and APIs for interoperability, in order to really achieve universal financial health and the meaningful usage of financial services. These approaches need to be adopted to enable not just the collaboration around the technology, but data as well. right now we're at a very opportune time in terms of the industry being quite a buzz around digital public infrastructure and digital public goods. There are many emergent solutions right now which provide foundational digital public goods, building blocks, primitives, or whatever you may call them, for all of the underlying infrastructure that's necessary for financial inclusion. So these range from back-end systems of record like Mifos and Fineract to manage these transactional accounts, systems like MOSIP for functional and foundational identity, systems to centralize the clearing of payments like Mojaloop, or the Interledger Protocol for interoperability of payments, fraud and risk management like Tazama, and the list is endless around the different digital public goods out there. So we at our fingertips have exceptionally powerful tools right now if we use them in the right way and fully adopt them. And when I say fully adopt them, this is threefold. First off, for the stewards of these digital public goods, they need to follow, as Pramod Varma put it, an hourglass approach to the architecture, where there is a narrow core platform in the middle that can be sustainable and widely adopted, which enables innovation on both the supply and demand side. On the supply side, the entities need to be able to collectively help to maintain and build that core platform. And then on the demand side, there need to be APIs and widely accessible tools to help enable the innovation of apps. And then the second form comes from the adopters and the implementers, and they themselves need to not just use and consume the open source, but actually contribute back upstream to help enable this virtuous cycle. And then lastly, for the builders and implementers, as well as the funders helping to guide the industry as a whole, they need to invest in and advance the standards for interoperability and harmonization of these APIs. And in doing this, and adopting these open core approaches in a full and right way, we can democratize not just access to technology, but access to data, access to financial services, and access to innovation.
Thank you, Ed. That's really good. So, Victor, what about yourself? What do you think the biggest thing the fintech industry could do to progress financial inclusion?
Okay. The main challenge right now is to provide true solutions to our customers. When I say true solutions, I mean solutions that works from the 0 day, because the time to market right now for the customer is very important. They want to provide financial services in a very fast way to the customers, and they are also looking for payment or real-time payment solutions. But also they require some kind of behavior analysis, because it will help to understand the anti-money laundering behavior, and also financial terrorism, because the importance of the digital financial services will increase, at least here in Latin America, in an exponential way. Because, for example, here in Mexico, we have real-time payment system, but the market share is very low, but it is expected to increase in the very short time. And it is important to have this kind of open source solution, and also to understand our customers, not only from the payment capacity or for the, for example, the previous banking history, but we need to understand how they think about do the repayment, which is the responsibility that they acquire when they contract a loan. So this is very important to understand in a very fast way for our customers. And this is a solution that with the Begini solution and Mifos solution, we are helping our customers to address and to achieve these goals.
Thank you, Victor. That's great. So, James, have you got anything to add to that?
Yeah, thanks, David. I'd say just get started. And I don't mean to sound flippant, but the next era of credit assessment will be driven by different data sources. And the best thing you can do is get started. The customers already we're working with, they tell us how they wish they'd started to enrich their data earlier to be able to access and get access to more people. With every credit assessment you do, you gather data, you learn through MLAs and generative AI, and that will enhance your data models to be more accurate and more supportive. And the old saying is the best time to plant an oak tree 20 years ago. Second best time is today. Open source architecture, in conclusion, is a critical ingredient in the ability for lenders to get started collecting their own first-party data.
Thank you. I'd like to thank all of you today for sparing the time to share your insights with our audience. It's absolutely great. And thank you also for agreeing to answer any questions they may have afterwards. And we'll put the contact details on the screen afterwards so you can contact us. Thank you, everybody.